Welcome to Destination Linux, the overworld of open source crafting, where every pixel of code builds a masterpiece. I'm your Steve this week, Ryan, punching trees and mining the depths of tech with my trusty adventuring party. I also have with me Jill, our resident Enderman, teleporting through code bases, rewriting scripts in a blink, and never caught without her pumpkin helm or penguin helm. I should probably say there, yeah. And then we have Michael, our chicken jockey. Chicken jockey. Come on, you don't know the meme, Michael? Chicken jockey?
No, I
Everyone's
don't know that
supposed to
meme.
throw popcorn and go crazy.
Yeah.
Not a chance, but I'd do that anyway.
Everywhere.
I think that's why you chose to make me that, but I'm not going to do that no matter what. So.
Yeah. Marketing tinkerer, blowing up social media posts just for fun, and always one bite away from going viral. See what I did there?
Yep.
This week's quest, we're digging into shiny new blocks of Ubuntu 25.04, exploring its latest features, and venturing into the anonymized caves of Tor browser 14.5 for ultimate privacy. Plus, Michael's got a surprise drop. Hopefully, not another TNT trap.
Okay. So this is clearly Minecraft.
Yeah.
However, what's funny is that this is easily much better than the movie they're making.
Probably. I saw the movie. My kids loved the movie, but it was really bad. But I guess that's what's charming about it is how bad it is.
No, definitely not. It's made for children, and that's why it's okay, because children will like it because it's look, shiny, and that's about it.
What's amazing is all the
good.
scenes that they were excited to go see the movie about, they already knew because they'd seen clips of it. So before the scene would happen, them and all the other kids in the audience were already reacting. And I'm like, why did we have to come here? You already saw all the YouTube shorts that, are all the best highlights of it. Anyways, grab your diamond pickaxes, sync your repos, and remember, in open source, every mod is a redstone circle to freedom. Let's start crafting. This is Destination Linux. This week in our community feedback, we get a message from Jay. Just Jay.
Yay.
Nothing else.
Okay.
Well, actually, they had other things, but it started with J, so that's the only letter I grabbed was the J. But they have other parts of their name, too. There's like two other names after J. But to keep them anonymous, I'm not going to say those other two names, Michael. Jeez.
Oh, you're not going to say JJ Jr.?
Jay has this to say. Hello, everyone at DL. This is a great episode talking about last week's interview with Carl. And having followed System 76 for quite some time now, I was really excited to see this episode. Mr. Richell was a great guest, and I actually learned more about the company than having followed them for over 15 years. I'm inspired by their story and naturally watching the development of the Cosmic Desktop to see how that story plays out. The community feedback, just in the videos and everything, has been so positive on that episode.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so happy. Jill got that interview arranged. So special thanks to you, Jill, for getting that all arranged and set up because it was excellent. It was amazing.
I think that was a great interview. We've already got so many different comments. Jay is just one of the comments we got. And it was a great interview. We had a lot of fun. And there was also a lot of stuff. We had conversations afterwards because there's only so much content we can put in the show. But we're definitely going to have him back on in the future. Hopefully when Cosmic comes out and that sort of stuff. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't. And if you haven't, how are you watching this already? Pretty good.
Why are you not subscribed? I was really sweating bullets at that last question, though, about whether hard Cheetos or Cheeto Puffs.
I could see it in your face. You were actually worried. Is he going to say the right thing? Is he?
Because if he didn't, then what were we going to do? We'd have to delete the whole episode.
We'd have to. I actually asked Ryan before Carl joined the show. True. And I was like, well, what if he says Puffy Cheetos? And by the way, for those who are curious, there are Puffy Cheetos. There's also cheese puffs. There's a difference, but there are Puffy Cheetos. I did look it up after someone sent a comment about it.
You've looked it up.
I wanted to clarify to make sure that we are accurate.
Brain space you wasted.
And I do that all the time. But I did ask Ryan what happens if Carl says the not hard Cheetos, and he said, "Oh, we're just going to end the show right there, and we're just going to throw it away. It doesn't count. We'll figure out something else to talk about."
No episode this week, folks. Sorry, Carl likes puffs.
Carl apparently doesn't know the right kind of Cheetos, but he did. He did actually know the right Cheetos.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Good job, Carl. And he also picked muffin, which is great.
What if he decided to pick the in-between, the cheese balls in the big can?
That would have been acceptable. I wouldn't have deleted the interview, but
yeah, that's
there would have been like a notification at the bottom, like a warning. It says he chose cheese balls, which is okay. That's why we're submitting. That's why we're publishing in this, but also still an asterisk next to his name on his permanent record.
Well, I feel better as a consumer knowing that my money is going towards a company that supports hard Cheetos. So that's how I look at it.
I wonder how appreciative of all these free promotions does Cheetos, how appreciative are you, Cheetos, that you're getting all this free promotion?
Well, the VP of Puffy Cheetos side of Cheetos hates us, but the VP of the hard Cheetos section loves us. It's like,
well, you're still talking about Cheetos, so the CEO is like super happy regardless.
Yeah,
we should bring him on so he can talk about how he uses Linux on the back end,
Yeah, we should.
Cheetos. The hard Cheetos guy uses Linux. I hear just a rumor that the Puffy Cheetos guy is a hardcore Windows fan. So
but I also think that they're still on Windows 98 SE.
Well, I mean, that was a great Windows. So
okay, it was Millennium Edition.
Now we're talking.
Aluminum.
That sounds about right.
Windows aluminum.
Aluminum.
By the way, there's rumors that 12 is coming sooner than we think. We'll probably have to cover it in an episode, but Windows 12 is supposed to be something
How would
else.
we cover that in an episode?
Oh, Lord.
Well, it's gonna be so good, Michael. We're gonna abandon Linux.
Oh, I see. So it's gonna be so amazing and probably gonna come out April 1st of next year. Is what we're gonna cover. That's what I'm suspecting.
100%. If you want to send in your comments, maybe you want to tell us about how excited you are about Windows 12, you can go to destinationlinux.net/comments or destinationlinux.net/forum and type us a whole essay of why you think Windows 12 is going to dominate computing here, now, and forever. So it's exciting. Can't wait to read those essays.
Why is that your prompt to the audience?
I don't know.
As Linux users, we know what's up. Security is non-negotiable. With threats getting smarter, your security tools need to keep pace without dragging your system down. Traditional agents, they slow your system down, they leave blind spots. It's time for a smarter approach, and that's why Destination Linux is proud to be sponsored by Sandfly Security, the revolutionary agentless platform designed for Linux. Go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly to check it out. And Sandfly doesn't just detect and respond. It revolutionizes security with SSH key tracking, password auditing, and drift detection, covering threats from every angle. Whether your systems are in the cloud, on premises, or in embedded devices, Sandfly ensures they're all secure without the headaches of agent-based solutions. Listen to what Ken Kleiner, the senior security engineer at the University of Massachusetts, has to say. Sandfly is the first product that he's seen that accurately and quickly detects thousands of signs of compromise on the Linux platform. Its unique method automates tasks which would be manually impossible. Automation is key with detection, and Sandfly completely fits this and other requirements. If your organization is using Linux, this should be part of your cybersecurity toolset. So experience security that's not just effective, but gives you peace of mind. There's no agents, no downtime, just cutting-edge protections.
Michael, do you know what drift detection is? Did you know that drift detection spots any system modifications instantly? What does bad actors, bad software do to your system?
They modify your system.
Well, that's why Sandfly is awesome. And if you want to check out just how awesome it is, you can actually get a 50% discount on the product. The Home Edition is available. They announced it on our show. You can get 50% off by going there and typing in Destination 50. That's just for our audience and listeners. You can't go to any other podcast and get a 50 thing. Just ours, just us. So go
just
support
you special people who are watching this show.
That
Destination
like our Cheetos.
50.
Yeah.
If you eat Puffy Cheetos, you don't get the discount I hear.
I mean, technically it'll work anyway. How would we know if they used it in,
We don't have a detection system, a drift Cheeto detection system.
We don't have a drift detection of whether or not they're using our Cheetos.
Okay. Well, we'll work on that. But for right now, go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly and see how awesome this company is. By the way, they support Linux. They help support shows like this. Go check them out. Go support the company that supports Linux and open source. DestinationLinux.net/Sandfly. Type it in now. Tell me about Ubuntu. Are they doing anything over there in Canonical World?
Oh, absolutely. And it's
No, I don't think
big
so. I haven't heard
news.
anything.
So Ubuntu 25.04 Plucky Puffin. It's so cute. Their little Plucky Puffin mascot
It is pretty cute.
has been released and includes many new features that so many of us Linux users are excited about, including the latest and greatest Linux kernel 6.14 and all of its hardware enhancements, and an updated Mesa 25 graphics driver. And Ubuntu 25.04 features the GNOME 48 desktop with all of its awesome updates and a great new feature, dynamic triple buffering for improved speed on lower end systems. When I was using it, I could just feel that speed. It was so fast. I mean, they've really improved that. So it's going to work really well on your mini PCs and your low powered systems and your older systems.
You're not going to notice much. If you have a pretty beefy system, you probably won't notice that much.
You wouldn't notice as much. But I tested it, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit on a little older system. Also, for users using virtual machines, there is an official Ubuntu 25.04 ARM64 desktop ISO enhanced for virtual environments. And there's initial hardware enablement for the Snapdragon X Elite platform, as well as full support for Intel Arc graphics and the new Battlemage discrete GPUs, including the hard-to-get Intel Arc B580 and B570.
Yeah.
And this is because we have that uplift in the Linux kernel. Helps a lot.
No, this is really a big deal. Right now, I think it's pretty hard to get a video card anywhere. Of any kind.
At a decent price, too.
Yeah, at a decent price. Yeah, good point.
I don't think it's been possible to get a decent video card at a decent price for the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Well, people keep wanting hardware addicts to come back, and I'd love to bring it back, and we may at some point, but it's like impossible to do a hardware show because you can't get any hardware.
We can't go bankrupt to make a podcast, people. That's the problem.
You would have to in order to talk about anything relevant. Otherwise, the whole episodes would be about retro stuff. Because it used to be I'd get new computers, as Michael knows, the entire time he's known me, 3 or 4 times a year. I'd have a brand new machine.
Minimum every 6 months. There's been times where he would say, like, I got this new GPU I'm testing. I'm like, okay, cool. And then 3 months later, it was like, didn't you just get one? And that has not happened for 2 years at least.
Yeah.
It's been more.
Yeah. That's unusual for Ryan.
And I don't like it. I actually hate that I have the same hardware just sitting here because I love trying new hardware and just seeing how it works. But everything's so expensive. It's impossible to be able to justify paying $1,400 for a video card.
Oh, yeah. You know what I did a few years ago is I stocked up on a bunch of motherboards and GPUs and whatnot. So I'm still building systems like every few months so I can keep my...
Of course you are, Jill.
my obsession going. But yeah, new hardware, not so much.
But notice she didn't share that secret with us, Michael. We could have.
Oh yeah, she likes to share things after the fact when it's too late. Yes, exactly. Too late. That's why we get our stock tips from her years after it's valuable.
I just went to Newegg, and I think this is interesting. And the Intel Arc B series is a very interesting card because they're going after really kind of the entry level market, but with a mid level card, price wise. Yeah. And so I went to Newegg, and every version of it literally says sold out in red under it. So I'm happy for Intel on the aspect that they have a card that's selling out. Also, I think it speaks volumes about the market right now, in that people just want a good 1440p card that doesn't cost $800 to run, and Intel is definitely offering that. Which is very cool, but it's just sad for the whole GPU hardware market that things have gotten so bad and remain that way. And I think it went from shipping issues to having problems, of course, because of COVID in stock, and then we had all kinds of other problems that have occurred.
Yeah.
Crypto miner stuff.
Crypto miners. That's right. That's where I was going to go, is crypto miners. And then you've got AI now. So like,
Yeah.
then they're taking all the GPUs. And so like, there's always this, GPUs are just very, very sought after right now for lots of businesses and
Do
industries.
you remember the wonderful time of like, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, where only the hardcore big nerds were the ones having the top of the line graphics cards, and like everybody's like, why would you spend so much? Like, and now we can't even get them, even if we wanted to. You know, you can't.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And then
Aw.
I think it's also interesting, Jill, the Snapdragon X Elite platform.
Yes.
So this is, Qualcomm, I believe, is the creator of this.
yes,
Yeah.
I believe it is, because Snapdragon. But this really is kind of a competitor to what Apple's been doing out there. So you've got your big little
Exactly.
architecture. So this has the potential even for Windows to finally, like, potentially, although the benchmarks aren't showing that's happening, but the potential was there for Windows to actually compete with Mac when it came to like battery life and all those other type of things there. If they, maybe with Windows 12, they'll get it right.
Yeah.
sure.
And it will work.
I think
really well.
we're gonna have to in order for Windows to finally become a really good platform to be optimized for. There's gonna need some time for performance optimization, all that sort of stuff. So I feel like we're gonna wait for lucky number 13 of Windows when we
number 13.
yeah.
This processor was designed specifically for multi-day battery life, and so I think if you want that, you're going to have to go to Linux to experience that, because Windows isn't going to deliver. Windows has the worst power management of any operating system I've ever seen.
Mhm.
Like when you I obviously have to use Windows for work and stuff like that. So when I close my laptop, put it in my laptop bag, drive 30 minutes home, and then, maybe go do something. So an hour later and open my laptop, it's dead.
Yeah.
Now, MacBook, you can sit there, close that thing, come back to it 3 days later, and it's still got 50% of its power left because it's got power management thing.
And optimizes
Yeah.
like suspend and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and you can also do the same thing with like Linux and the suspend and
Of course,
stuff.
yep.
But then when
Yes.
you do it with Windows, it's hilarious because even when it suspends, it doesn't really do a full suspend. There's just like this waste of battery for no reason. So it'll last maybe another 30 minutes if you wanted to.
Well, there's a
Yeah.
reason. It's sitting there going, I need to find a connection to send this person's data up to Microsoft right away.
I have too many screenshots. I need to send it away.
I have too many
So-
screenshots.
Back to Ubuntu 25.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
Oh, that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So their Flutter-based OS installer also got lots of love, and this is huge. It has an improved UI for installing Ubuntu alongside other operating systems like Windows, and the ability to replace an existing Ubuntu installation directly from the installer. And I will talk about my experience with that in just a few minutes.
So replace as in like I saw this in the notes about like replace Ubuntu. Is that like a refreshing, like not like a full install, but like a, sounded like backtracking the installation. That's what it feels like, because every time I saw that the replace Ubuntu was like, well, you could just fresh install and it will replace Ubuntu. Like what exactly?
But I don't think
you
it
mean?
overwrites your home directory when you
Yeah.
do this one. So that's
Oh, I
different.
see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keeps
So
your
it's
home
more like, it's
directory.
kind of like a rollback to factory settings type of thing.
Yes,
Very
exactly.
nice.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Well, hey, Jill, I don't mean to interrupt, but did you know that the Qualcomm Snapdragon X is capable of 4.6 teraflops, which I think is, I'm
Mhm.
kidding. Continue on with Ubuntu.
Okay. But actually, one of my favorite features in Ubuntu 25.04, besides Linux kernel 6.14, is the ability to enable high dynamic range, or HDR. HDR support is still very much in its early stages, and it's not enabled by default. To use it, you'll need an HDR capable monitor and then activate the feature in the display settings. And then after that, HDR will function in any Linux applications that are designed to support it.
But I don't
And-
mean to be ugly, but isn't it like really late in the game to just be having HDR support?
Okay. So in a
there's
way,
a long
yes.
story.
I mean, the short version of the long story is that Ubuntu had to wait for GNOME to support it, and GNOME just supported it with 48.
That's
Exactly.
the short of a long, very long story.
That's the short, like, if you want the full reason of why it took so long for Gnome to get it and like that,
Yeah.
No, let's hold off on that because I want to tell you about the Snapdragon's 12 cores that can reach up to 3.8
That's important.
gigahertz.
With the 12 cores
Ryan?
and the 5 teraflops, it's very important.
Sorry.
Ryan, there's something else special about the latest Ubuntu.
Okay. Go back to Ubuntu.
So there's a new well-being panel and settings, which includes...
You know what also is well-being is a Snapdragon Elite X.
Yeah, it is. Well, this includes screen time tracking and the ability to set usage limits and reminders for movement and eyesight. And it's really awesome because the screen goes black and white to notify you, oh, it's time to get up and move and move your eyes around and exercise.
That is very good because people
really
kind of
awesome.
made some jokes about this being introduced in GNOME. And I think this is actually a good idea because KDE has had this tool called RSI Break for a long time. I'm not sure if they still make it, but they've had it for a while. And it was really cool because it does a similar thing where it just sort of, pulls you out of the funk of just doing like a long, hardcore, like hyper focused type of thing. And
or in Michael's case, watching YouTube shorts.
Yeah.
In my case, it's hyper focusing on YouTube shorts. So this is really good because it gives you like a clear tracking, like times it's like, how long have you been on this application or something like that? And I feel like that's important to do because it allows you to kind of like...
They have that with phones and other stuff. Where you
exactly.
Phones and do it. So I think every device should have this. And I do think that it should be added to like every desktop if possible.
Or you can just get a Garmin watch and it will remind you need to stand up and move every now and then,
Yeah, but then you get annoyed by activating on your wrist and you're like, I'll just shut up. I'll do it myself. And then you forget and then it never happens. So I feel like...
What else is in Ubuntu 25.04?
Well, I'm going to tell you about my experience installing it.
Okay.
Okay.
I installed Ubuntu 25.04 alongside Linux Mint 22.1 on one of my computers I use for testing distros. It's my older Dell Optiplex 5060. Running an NVIDIA GTX 1660 Super GPU that I upgraded it with and 16 gigs of RAM. So it's a nice little machine.
It feels good having your money thrown in my face. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You got a super, not just a 1660, Ryan.
Yeah,
super.
Yeah, they're actually quite expensive now.
Yeah, it's probably worth $4,000 on eBay.
Yeah. So the install went smoothly, and the improvements to the installer for dual booting are much improved. It's easier to use, and there are more visual diagrams and descriptions for the process. So before it was kind of like, you just click, are you dual booting? And that was kind of it. Then it would start and do the process. But now it actually shows you what it's doing and with little visual call outs. And it's very nice. And I also had a great time testing HDR with Ubuntu 25.04 on my 49-inch ultra-wide 5K high refresh monitors.
Okay, now you really just threw your money in my face.
There's that. Yeah. I'm surprised this monitor is not also a super.
Well, that was my Christmas present from my husband. We're two ultra-wides, and
Is Steve
really
looking
sweet.
for a second wife by chance? Because I'm available for a 49-inch 5K ultra-wide television.
I don't want that monitor that much.
Yeah. Aw. So in the settings displays properties, you can turn on HDR with a toggle if it recognizes that you have an HDR enabled monitor, and you can adjust the HDR brightness with a slider. And I ran several games that support HDR on my 49-inch ultra-wide. And
go ahead, say it. 5K high refresh monitor.
5K.
Keep throwing it in every sentence, Jill. And then I walked by my 49-inch ultra-wide 5K high refresh monitor.
Which was connected to my 1660 Super GPU.
Oh, well, that's a lower-end mid-tier GPU, but...
True, but it doesn't help our joke.
Yeah, I know. No, I put that card in that machine because it's it's the small tower of Dell, and you can't put a big GPU in it.
Yeah.
Which she also has, but she doesn't want to name it that way.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Jill. You walked by your 49-inch ultra-wide 5K high refresh monitor and
I played the Talos Principle 2 on it, No Man's Sky, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and they all looked actually really nice and beautiful with deep blacks and crisp colors, except some of the games looked very washed out. It's one of the telltale marks of HDR when it's not done correctly.
Doesn't Windows have some issues still with HDR as well? I've heard.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So this isn't just an Linux problem.
I think everything has issues with HDR except for maybe consoles.
Yeah, consoles and TVs are generally pretty good with it.
But depending on the content you serve on the TV.
Well, Jill, is the 49-inch ultra-wide 5K high refresh monitor good with HDR?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay, cool.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So actually, No Man's Sky looked the best, but the Talos Principle 2 and Shadow of the Tomb Raider looked a bit oversaturated, and that's also when you know the HDR isn't done that well and encoded that well. So it looks very saturated, and sometimes it's either too dark or too light. So that's one of the reasons that the GNOME team put in a brightness slider in the HDR settings. So I did have to bring the brightness all the way up to help improve things. And of course, you can't adjust it on your monitor. I did some fiddling with some of the games.
On your 49-inch ultra-wide 5K high refresh monitor?
Yeah, I changed, the color and the brightness and the contrast. Get it looking better.
Jill, I'm sorry you came on this show thinking you'd have a serious conversation.
No, that's so scary.
I don't think she ever thought that would happen.
And I'm just looking forward to the day when every desktop environment supports HDR and that it's baked and it looks nice.
That would be awesome.
Yes, like you were saying before, it's not perfect on Windows either. So we've come a long way though here on Linux, and in fact, it's used in GameScope on the Steam Deck, and it looks beautiful there because it's Valve and they know how to do it.
Naturally.
HDR.
And also the whole locking it down to a single hardware component system.
Exactly. That helps a lot.
Yeah.
That
self-contained ecosystem of hardware.
Yeah. And there were a few things that I think could be improved. Like, for instance, in the new Flutter installer, there is no progress bar on the installer showing you the percentage of installation done like there used to be. The install process, as usual, is indicated at the bottom of the installer, such as installation and setting up the system with the fonts and the words. But there's the bar is not a standard installation bar. It's more just like a light that's running along a bar to show you that it's working.
It's interesting. I always battle with that. I know what you mean, Jill, because I've seen software that doesn't have the percentage.
Yeah.
But then every programmer you talk to, I don't know about how recent this is, will tell you that progress installation bar percentage calculator is 100% inaccurate.
Yeah. And I know that's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And therefore, it's kind of
30%,
like
40%, 96%.
Yeah. Yes.
Back to 20% if it's Windows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, though, I like to have a visual representation of the install process for timing purposes and checking up on an installation from a glance when I'm doing other things. Because sometimes if Ubuntu says it's 50% there, it's usually around 50. It's a little more accurate, I think, than most.
Probably on a 49-inch ultra-wide 5K high refresh monitor is very accurate, but
there's a lot of room for the progress bar.
Yes, there is, and it spans the whole width.
I do think it's a good point though to have one of those, just because it's not that important, and most people know that the percentage isn't really accurate, but at the same time, it's something to have that is somewhat nice because you can kind of walk away, get on your phone and then doom scroll for as much time as giving you just an
knowing
indicator.
Something's stuck, because if it sits there at 30% for an hour, you're kind of like, okay, this hasn't moved. Something's broke. But if it's just lights bouncing down, unless they freeze or something, I don't really know that it's stopped.
Yeah. And most of the time, most of the time, it's like those kind of animations are just a single GIF like running back and forth.
Yeah. That's
Like there's no actual
what it is.
indicator. Yeah. But I think that is a good idea to have a progress bar. It wouldn't hurt anyway.
Yeah. And also, this is a little nitpick for the GNOME team, but not huge, but it can be fixed easily. In the display settings in GNOME 48, I wish there was more variation on the scaling. Right now, you can choose 100%, 200%, or 300 scaling, which is great, but I would like a more incremental scaling, like 125%, 150, or 175. That's usually I usually do like 150 to 175.
Yeah, you can do that in Ubuntu. I don't know if you can do it in GNOME generally. I think it is possible, but you have to activate a fractional scaling toggle.
Yes.
And then you can get the 125, 150.
But to Jill's point,
also still not.
This should not even be an option. Like you can't. I don't know anybody. Maybe on a 5K monitor. I don't know. I'd never had one. But 100, 200, 300.
That is basically worthless.
It's basically worthless. 100%.
Like you need an incredibly high maybe a 49-inch 5K high ultra wide high refresh monitor in order for the 200% to be.
That's a really good example that you brought up, Michael. I wasn't thinking about the 49
off the top of my head.
Ultra wide 5K high refresh monitor, but you're right, that would work.
Yeah, that would be a good one for the 200%. But like, if you had a different monitor that you would want, like the fractional scaling is very important. And also,
if you only had enough money for a 49-inch ultra wide 4K high refresh rate monitor, then
then at that point you could be. But the fractional scaling is important because if you have a high quality monitor like a 4K or even like a 3K or maybe even a 2K, depending on like the technical speaking of that 1080p is technically 2K. I don't mean that. There's also like a higher version that counts as 2K.
Don't feed the nerds, Michael.
I know.
When you give those little anecdotes, you feed the nerds, and then they're still going to go, actually.
My bad. But the fractional scaling is very important, and every 25% is not enough. Like KDE does every 5%, and even on X, you can do it every like 6.5% or 6.25%. Like it's much more incremental, and it's a lot more useful. So you need to be more than just every 25%. You need to make it much more granular because it's very important depending on the whether it's an ultra wide, whether it's a regular, whether you're using it as a vertical monitor or whatever configuration you have and whatever size resolution you have. It does matter to have these fractional things. So
the good thing is, look, the GNOME team is known for taking feedback and implementing it right away. So we're surely to have it. So.
That's why we have app indicators already. Oh, wait. That's why we have desktop.
It's coming. Yeah. They're just.
Well, did you guys know that
Ubuntu has those because they put them in themselves, but still.
Yeah. Did you guys know that XFCE you can put in your own numbers, which is awesome, and that was cool. That was really awesome. It's one of the reasons it's really super helpful for me with vision issues, and I often will have it like at 56, 57, 58, depending on what monitor I'm on.
I need tenths of a point change too.
Yeah.
59.5, 59.2, 59.18.
Agreed.
7, 6.
Agreed.
Yes.
If you don't give us at least 1/1000th of a percent, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
And
but I just wanted to, in conclusion, I just wanted to end with, this is a fantastic release canonical with tons of hardware enablement, new useful features, and a peppy new version of GNOME. And the fastest launch of the App Center ever of any release. It was just immediate. I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting it. It just popped. It's right there. That was awesome. And that was on an older machine too. So that was cool. And this latest stable release will only be supported for 9 months until January 2026, but all of its improvements will be updated in the Ubuntu 24.04 LTS at a future date.
Yeah, with the hardware enablement stuff, which is awesome.
Awesome.
But really, this is a great release. I mean, there's a lot of improvements. I had a couple issues, and there's been some reports of like some bugs that people have found. Like there was one report that was recent, as depending on the application, the minimize, close, and maximize buttons were not in the right padding and order and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I thought that's interesting, and I would not have probably noticed it. But I would have noticed it. I don't use applications that much.
I would not have noticed it.
You would not have noticed it for sure. But I meant like I probably wouldn't notice it because most of the applications I use are like maximized. I don't have them like stacked on top of each other and like, to where you could compare the two. But anyway, I think that's interesting. But there's always bugs. That's not a big deal. But also like they're working on a point release that's going to come out pretty soon. And I think that this is a really solid release. And I play with a bunch of different stuff, and it's very peppy this time. I didn't notice anything with the GNOME features or like the triple buffering because I have a beefier computer that it wouldn't really make a difference. And a lot of people are thinking like it's mostly for older hardware to be better performant because it's more of like handing off of like tasks that are in the RAM, and you can kind of pass it off to the shell can pass off stuff to another thread to be able to handle it rather than like a main performance thing. So it is good, but it's not it's not for everybody.
Michael, tell us about the animal that's going to be used in 25.10.
You were talking about it on Twill.
Right. I really just wanted to lead up to the fact that the next release at 25.10 is the most important. And actually, I'm sad that they didn't hold off and do another P to give the Q ability to be an LTS. It's not going to be LTS. That's unfortunate. Should be, because it's Quokka. Questing Quokka is the code name for the release of Ubuntu 25.10. And for those who don't know, Quokka is the most adorable animal on the planet. It is easily the most. If you thinking that there's no way.
The capybara.
No, look at the Quokka. Compare it with the capybara.
It's like a rat.
How dare you?
Oh,
like
it does not.
Koala rat.
It does not. How dare you?
A kangaroo rat.
Sort of. Also, look up Quokka selfie, and then you will see the full grasp of the awesomeness. That
oh my gosh,
Quokka.
it's a suggested search item is Quokka selfie. As soon as I click in the box thing,
exactly.
Oh, that's
because Quokkas like taking selfies. What other animal? Like it's already cute by itself, and then it also wants to hang out and take photos with you. That's awesome. So
I didn't know much about this animal at all.
Let me tell you a story, Ryan. What was your question? Sorry for interrupting.
I'll look it up online. I want to know what Quokkas taste like. So go ahead.
Oh.
You have now been kicked off the show. How dare you?
Yeah.
This is your hard Cheetos thing. That is a hard line for me with the Quokka. It is the most adorable thing.
Well, good news is they suggest they're not suitable for human consumption because they're endangered and they primarily eat leaves and bark. So
good, I guess. Anyway, I'm glad we found that information. So back to the story, I guess. So I had never heard of the animal Quokka until Ubuntu 12.10. Because they announced in 12.10 that they were going to do Q, and they were asking what people think the animal was going to be. And for those who don't know, it was Quetzal was the name of that code name. And I was very disappointed because I found out a Quokka existed at the time, like a month before they chose it. And then they didn't choose Quokka. So for 13 years, I have been promoting the fact that they need to pick Quokka this time. Now, of course, that's not because I'm that ridiculous and I've been like, use Quokka. They do it every 13 years because there's 26 letters in the alphabet and there's 2 releases every year. Oh, wow.
You're really good at math. You should look into a career in that.
No, that's about as much as I could do. Once we get into like multiplication and stuff, just too much. But Quokka is adorable. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. And yes, this is the best choice ever. Good job, Canonical.
Yes.
All right. Michael, it's time for some sad news. We had the happy Quokkas. Now we got the sad Goodbye-kas. Goodbye-kas.
I heard Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Sure. That too.
All right. So Chewbacca. No, seriously. Okay. This is sad, but also it's not like a horrible thing, but it is bad. in the sense like ArcoLinux has decided that they're going to be shutting down the project. And for those who don't know, ArcoLinux was basically, it was originally Arch Labs and then Arch Merge and then became ArcoLinux. And it was a project by Eric Dubois, who was actually a guest on this show a couple of times. You can go back to episode 26 and 56. Unfortunately, I was not on either one of those episodes, but
So
Ryan
definitely check those out because they're incredible.
I was saying that unfortunately, because I didn't get to talk with Eric, you got to talk with Eric, and I was going to point that out. But now you seem like very selfish about it. But anyway, go check those episodes out, and they're really interesting. But I think that this is a bummer because there's a lot of great content in this project. ArcoLinux is not really a distribution, so to speak. It is, but it's not really. It's more of like an ecosystem of teaching people how to use Arch.
Yeah, Eric was a teacher for years, and,
Right.
and when I was learning Arch, ArcoLinux and all the guides and information Eric had out there was incredibly helpful to me back then. In fact, his whole website was almost geared towards teaching you the steps to work your way up to Arch.
Exactly.
Which was really, really, really interesting how he did it. And it was just such a great asset to the community of people who wanted to kind of take that next step. Because I feel like when you do your first Linux journey, you start off with things like an Ubuntu or Mint or something that's just really well done. Everything's kind of done for you for the most part. But then you want to, play with building your own and putting your own modules in, setting up your own systems and preferences and all of this stuff that you could build from scratch, nearly, not really from scratch, but close to scratch with Arch. And, he did a great job of giving you ArcoLinux and then working your way all the way, if you wanted to Arch, or you could stay in ArcoLinux, which was fantastic too. It was just a great system. I hate that it's going away because he has tons of YouTube content as well out there and GitHub repos and all of this educational stuff.
Yeah,
very well done.
It's a
So
bummer that
interesting.
he's ending it, but also it's not a complete bummer. It's not like everything is lost kind of thing, because he has said that he's going to keep the YouTube videos out and the documentation is going to be available and you'll still be able to use it. It just won't be updated in the future, basically. So for up until like the next year or so, it'll still be valid because the stuff moves fast, but not that fast to make it completely obsolete. So you'd be able to still learn quite a bit from it and that sort of stuff. And you'd still be able to learn quite a bit overall because like the grand scope of how the stuff works is pretty much the same.
Change all that much.
Yeah.
What Eric did is really great for the community because instead of just saying, hey, I can no longer work on this, I've got other projects, whatever, and go find another distro, he created a script that just turns Arco into Arch. So you run that script and essentially you're back on Arch repositories.
That's awesome.
And you can keep going, which
Brilliant.
he didn't have to do. But of course, Eric would do that because educator wants people to keep going. And I think that was just a really cool.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And also, instead of just basic AUR, it is going to be switching to the chaotic AUR,
Yep.
Which is an interesting name for something that, like, because the AUR is already, theoretically chaotic. So, like, to have one called that is like,
I think it's a great name. Most things in my village will start with chaotic. The chaotic restaurant, the chaotic gym, the chaotic library.
That makes a ton of sense for your
it's a very
your
good
village for sure.
name for stuff.
Aw.
But yeah. Anyway, so it's a bummer that it's going away. But Jill, have you ever taken a look at Arco?
Yes, I have. In fact, Arco install, I had one of my students quite a few years ago use that to start learning Arch. So I was, that's I've known about the project for a while, and because of his interviews here on DL. But I was really impressed also that he's not just, he's going away. It's going away in the correct way to do it, like you said, with the script going to Arch. But he just said he's getting older in age. In fact, he's not far in age from me. And he cites, diminished focus and stamina, as the reason. And I congratulate him for going out very respectfully.
Yeah.
with
And all the
the
incredible
distro.
work. I mean, what a great legacy.
For those
to
who
leave
don't know,
behind.
there's like 5,000 videos teaching
Yeah,
you
there's
all this
tons.
stuff.
Yeah, and that's another
Yeah.
thing is I run into him all the time on YouTube, his
Yeah.
videos.
So,
You can't
Eric,
get away.
thank
I
you.
think there's more
Yeah.
of ArcoLinux stuff than anybody else.
Yeah.
There's a lot. It's good. And also there's a lot of documentation and stuff like so. There's a ton of useful information there. It is a little bit to kind of navigate to like find where everything is, but there is a ton of great useful stuff there.
Eric, thank you for all you've done for the Linux
Yeah.
community. Thank you for Arco. Thank you for all the work over the years, and hope to see you, meddling around in some other distros here and there still. And
Maybe we
adding
could
some
like have him on the
stuff.
show again for like a return to the show.
Yeah,
as like
Return of the Jedi.
That would be
Return of the Jedi, and
awesome.
like a farewell to the project kind of thing.
That
Yeah,
would be awesome. And then Michael can talk to him and I get to talk to him.
well,
Exactly.
we'll make sure Michael's not on that episode.
I am on
We wanna
every
keep it pleasant,
episode
Joe.
these days. You can't get me away from this show.
Yeah.
But also, I just love the fact that he had that much, not just the forethought, but also the care to make sure that even though he's closing
Yeah.
the project, but he's doing it in a way that could be like an example for other projects if they
For
ever
everyone.
needed to close and stuff, because nothing's going to go away. You still get all the benefits. And at the same time, he's still doing like up until July 1st, there's still going to be active support.
Yeah.
Of, like,
If you get a chance, go out there, send a nice message to him for all his awesome work out there. I know he would appreciate it. All developers, by the way, appreciate a nice message every once in a while. So,
they're
send a
used
nice
to getting
farewell,
messages, but not nice ones.
but not nice ones. All right. If you want to protect yourself from Michael, one of the tools you might want to use
What?
is is Tor browser. Tor browser will help you stay
still.
anonymous from Michael.
What?
Yeah. No, I love Tor.
I thought you were going to say you love me. Never mind.
Not on camera. I love Tor though. And I know that no project is perfect. Nothing is. However, Tor's mission is one that I wholeheartedly believe in. Their mission is to provide a free and open source web browser that enables truly anonymous browsing through the Tor network. And for those who are not aware, the Tor network is a global system of volunteer operated servers. I actually have a video out there on how to create a node if you want to check that out. Actually started in the 1990s at the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory to protect government communications. So that's why it was created in the first place, but then it got kind of taken over by the community as, hey, this is a really cool way of also protecting all of our communications from you guys, which is kind of cool. So its origins obviously protected top secret information. And the way this works is it uses nodes or relays that anonymize the user data and routes it through a series of encrypted connections. And each relay decrypts only enough information to just pass the data to the next relay. And then that ensures no single node knows everything that is in both the source and destination. They don't own the source and the destination of the traffic there. There are exit nodes. There are things out there where certain government groups have tried to take over certain exit nodes and stuff like that. But this is one of those situations that the more people who create nodes, the more people who support this project, the less that's possible for that type of stuff to happen. So it's a very important project for many reasons. It's also known as the place where you can get on the dark web. So I know the dark web sounds like anonymous, like, oh, this is a really horrible place. And it certainly
And
can
it
be.
is.
It can be. But it's also the place that allows a lot of people from a lot of different countries and a lot of different situations engage in whistleblowing activities, access content that's suppressed or censored in oppressive regions, get families connected to each other when they have one set of the family, it's an oppressive region, and another family, it's not. It allows a lot of great things too. Of course,
Okay,
people
I don't
always
think
use.
that's accurate. I think we should make a comparison, like a split.
It's
to
very accurate.
No, because I'm saying like one side that's used as like the protected side is like the I don't know, the invisible web, right? And then the dark web is the dark stuff. Like,
but
that's
the
what I'm
dark
saying.
web is also where you access the invisible web stuff. It's not like a separate place called the invisible web that's happy land.
But I'm saying
where penguins dance.
that's what we should do.
And
No,
then
I'm
there's
just
the
saying
dark
that's what-
web where Ryan's village lives. And
Yeah,
then
that's where Ryan's
I
village
mean, that
is.
is where your village would be for sure. Jill's actually did say she's going to put like a shield of protection, so it might be in the Visible Web too.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. You can make the same argument for cash, right? There are people who use it for a lot of bad purposes, and there are people who just use it for standard purposes of buying stuff. And the dark web's the same way. There are people who use it for good purposes, and there are people who use it for really bad purposes. And both are anonymous type of things. One's an anonymous currency, essentially, cash, and one is an anonymous web. So, yes, there are bad things on there. Don't go exploring randomly, but it's a really awesome thing that exists as well for people who are trying to, not have their government suppress them. So
that part is important, very much.
Yep.
So, and also just to be clear, like for those who are curious about Tor, learn about it. It's very cool. The Tor browser is very helpful. It makes it super easy to get started with it, because otherwise you'd have to like activate Tor on your network and that sort of stuff. And the browser just kind of does it for you. But you also need to keep in mind that it's not going to, if you're using Tor browser, it's not going to change the rest of your network. It's just inside of that browser. So if you switch to another browser, it's not going to be relevant to it and that sort of stuff. So you can use it to learn a lot about it, but also know that it's not like a foolproof privacy thing. That they're
the whole time.
I know. I know Ryan knows this, but for the people who don't know this, you should. There's other things you can look into for like.
Well, there's
VPNs
literally
and all
nothing
sorts of stuff
that's foolproof. So.
I'm not saying foolproof. I'm saying there's other things to help get more so to get up to that 90. Probably not even that.
I'll tell you what catches most people. What catches most people is they look at something like a VPN or they get on Tor. And Tor is very slow, so it's kind of hard to do a lot of nefarious stuff.
Yeah.
Work. It's not a super fast network. But in any case, they go and do nefarious stuff. And then on that same browser, they're doing nefarious stuff. They log into an account like Gmail or YouTube or something like that. And that's where they get caught. Every time you see an article of them getting caught, it's usually something like that. So
if you are a bad person using Tor browser,
log into your Gmail. Yeah, stay stupid, people. So you can get caught. No, I think Tor is absolutely incredible project. It's based on Firefox. It's probably one of the best things Firefox has going for it right now. And I'm very excited that they have a new version, 14.5. 14.5 introduces the connection assist feature to Android. This enables automatic censorship circumvention by selecting and testing bridge relays when direct Tor network connections are blocked. So governments got smart and they're like, hey, we have people out here trying to circumvent things that we have, tried to keep them from knowing, certain countries and regions where they don't want their the people in there reading news from other places to learn that they're oppressed or learn that things are way better on the other. They don't want them knowing any of that stuff. So they suppress that. And what this does is the government tries to suppress these certain relays. It detects that and hops them the relays that they're not blocking automatically. You don't have to try to figure it out and do it on your own. This has been available on desktop for a long time, but now you can do it in your Android app. And let's face it, a lot of people's only computer is a phone in certain areas. So, well, heck, a lot of times here it's just a phone. So, it's a really awesome feature to have there. They also did a lot of refactoring of the code base. And so this is really this is a very important thing, even though it's not super exciting because it's all behind the scenes work. But projects like this can become really stagnant, over the years. And so when they spend the time to refactor and do a complete groundwork overhaul, it's really important. It's something Windows should really learn about with their using the NT kernel still after all this time.
Well, supposedly the NT kernel is one of the best kernels I've heard. I don't know what that's based on, but I've heard that.
Yeah, for 20 years now, the best kernel ever. So, it's really important to do that every now and then. And so they're doing a lot of new protocol implementation in Rust, which is really great for security, as you know, and performance. So they're doing a lot of work there. They're doing real-time streaming Tor logs on desktop, improve quit behavior. They're fixing all kinds of stuff in 14.5 and setting things up for the future. At the end of the day, this is a really cool project to play with, to understand how it works, and maybe even support by going out there and setting up a node. You can set up a node on like DigitalOcean or other places, or set up your own node in your own home and things. Although, be careful about ever being an exit node, because then you don't want to be an exit node. Probably there's a lot more responsibility and potentially legal ramifications for being an exit node. So just set up a regular node and you'll be good.
Yeah, like a relay node or something like that.
Yep, a relay.
And the exit nodes. I mean, certain companies don't even allow you to do exit nodes. I don't think you can do it on DigitalOcean and other stuff like that. Like you used to be able to, but I don't think they let that anymore. And I don't think any of the other VPS, like not the ones that I can name off the top of my head, like Linode and
hack into Michael's computer, make it an exit node, and then you don't have to worry about the responsibility of being an exit node. What were you going to say, Jill?
Please don't.
Oh, well, I'm really happy. One of the articles I was reading was talking about how the circuit display might be coming to Android too. From the desktop version, and that's what shows you the bridges that it's taking, and to keep you secure, which is really awesome. And I think it's really cool that the backend framework convergence of the mobile and desktop Tor browser is coming closer together, because then there'll be parity with the different versions on mobile or desktop,
and also less development to do if there's only one.
Yeah, exactly.
Code base.
Easier for them.
I mean, right now they're so far apart. It's like you're seeing it on a 49-inch ultra wide 5K high refresh.
Yes.
Sure, it'll be like on an 11-inch ultra wide 5K monitor,
or a phone. Yes,
or phone. Yeah. Our software spotlight, Michael. I am so excited about this. I found this project and I started to just think, oh my God, I'm about to change Michael's world forever again. The first time I changed his world is when he met me, and it's like, oh, everything good happened to him. And then the second time is now, where I'm about to change it.
You're very much not a historian.
Yeah. Now, the second time the second time in your life, I'm going to change everything for you. You know how you're a big Sublime Text fan, to the horror of so many of our listeners who are like,
okay, no, Sublime Text is a fantastic editor, arguably one of the best. In fact, I would say it is the best, because everything that is like, VS Code, or back when Atom was still a thing, or when people talk about insert some type of application, they always talk about how it's got all these really cool features that were invented by the Sublime Text systems. And it's like, why would I care about this heavy, bloated Electron version of something I already have that is super more performant? Like, what could be better, except maybe something in the terminal, I guess, for the Vim people or whatever.
Well, that's what the Vim people hate when you say that, because me and the rest of the Vim people and me and the rest of the Emacs people are sick of hearing you talk about Sublime Text. And
because it's only on the GUI side of stuff.
Yeah, we don't like the way that you take this proprietary software and try to shove it into our faces. So,
I mean, it's great.
We went out and we coded something else. No, we didn't. But there's this tool out there called Micro. And Micro, very simple. So you're not going to forget it. You're going to be able to go and install it. Remember, what was that project called? Micro. Very nice name, very simple name. So you can give it a little. Am I selling it too much here?
Great name. It's not a very specific name to what it is.
I have software spotlight that's going to make Michael leave Sublime. It's called Micro, and it's freaking good. Not only that, the rest of the people in the audience are going to stop using Vim, Emacs, Nano. You're going to stop using it all. After you go check out Micro, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, Ryan was right. No one's going to say that, but it's still funny to get you all worked up.
I mean, once they're set up and like their whole Vim set up, like I've already gotten used to Vim and I already learned how to get out of Vim. They're like, why would I use anything else? Like that, fair enough. Same thing with Emacs. Like once you've already drank the Kool-Aid of those applications, I mean, what's the...
But Micro's so much better, dude. It's so much better. It is.
It's actually very cool. Micro is basically Sublime Text in a terminal. Like pretty much most of the features that Sublime Text has inside of a terminal. That is awesome. You get the multiple cursor system. You get the quick shortcut functionality of all these different things. That like basically it's even compatible with various like shortcut key bindings.
Yeah, you like all those weird keys. Like I want up to be HJKL because I'm weird. Then cool, you can set that in Micro. Also, you continue to be weird.
You don't need to do that because I mean you can just use normal arrow keys.
You can, but the fact is, every tutorial, including the game when you're playing the little games, like use HJKL. I'm like, what demented person came up with that concept?
So this is actually the Vim map navigation functions. So that
I know you're writing your little
No.
cheese puff stained fingers right now. The Vim community is vicious, man. They are like rabid. You talk bad about Vim or Vi or any of that, they are the nest. They're just going to be writing all of these hateful emails. Bring it on. My shoulders can handle it because I'm over here in micro typing stuff and using arrow keys like a normal human being. Or you're HJKLing for no apparent reason, just so you can look different than everybody else. You're like those goth kids. They all look the same, but they all thought they were different. That's what you're doing because you get the same functionality done with the arrow keys, but you had to have HJKL, didn't you? And so that's what's up.
Anti-conforming, but they're also conforming to each other. That's an interesting. Exactly. Yeah, I like it. But so what you're saying is that when people are mad, the Vim users, when they're mad, they're HJK yelling at us.
Yeah. Well, thank God it takes them so long to actually navigate to write a letter. I only get one a month, but I know I'm going to get a bunch of hate letters now.
You're going to get quite a few now.
And then they're going to try to figure out how to exit so they can send it in an email, which that will take them another week.
Oh, they'll probably just load up some terminal email client to make it work.
I like to double down on stuff when I start.
I see that. But also, just real quick, micro is cool. And with the idea, like anytime someone's ever said, why would I? And like when I tell them about how cool Sublime Text is, they'll be like, well, I can use Vim and Emacs in a terminal and do it over the SSH and that sort of stuff. And then I'll be like, well, okay, you can't do that with Sublime. But micro, you can. So you can get all the value of Sublime inside. Well, not all the value, but 90% of the value of Sublime in micro, and do it over to terminal or do it over an SSH session, which is awesome.
Yeah, I'm switching 100% to micro. I freaking love it. I love it. I think it's so good.
You know what, Ryan? It reminded me a lot of not just Nano, but another one of my favorite editors, which is Joe. It's kind of a cross between, it's a Nano competitor, but it's a little bit more like Vim. it's in between, but this has all the customizability of Sublime and all the colors and highlighting. 7 default color schemes to choose from.
I just realized why it's called micro because of the Nano.
Yeah, exactly.
Nano, micro.
Nano and
I
micro.
didn't even put that together. That's very good.
Yeah.
That's
it is a good name, Michael.
It's actually okay. It's fine. Yeah, it's a fine name.
Yeah.
But okay, so how good is it, Ryan? Are you saying that this is so good you would even say it's sublime?
I would say it is sublime. And by the way, now that everyone who is mad at me for talking bad about Vim and all that stuff, and you finally gotten into your insert mode so you can start typing, you could use whatever text editor you want, but micro superior. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching Destination Linux. However you do it, we love your faces. If you want, you can join us in our Discord at tuxdigital.com/Discord. And you can hang out with all of a bunch of people who are like-minded like you. And if you want to make friends, and I saw somebody do this in our chat.
I did too. Exactly.
Yeah. They said, I heard from a good source that I could just say, I love Linux, and I'm going to make a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
And they did it. Cool. And guess what? They got a bunch of friends.
A bunch of friends, lots of comments saying hi and everything. Totally worked. So if you want to do that, you can go into the Discord server and just send I love Linux, and you'll get a lot of you'll get a lot of friends, as already been proven.
Yeah.
And also, if you want us as friends, you can become a patron by going to
You have to buy our friendship.
You have to pay for our friendship.
Man, that is a terrible segue.
It was so perfectly set up. How could I not? Oh,
my goodness.
So tuxdigital.com/membership to become a patron and get a bunch of perks. Friendship thing, okay, fair. It's not, you could just join the Discord server, but there's a lot of cool stuff in there. We got the access to watch the show live, unedited episodes of the show, and merch discounts. Yes, that means we have merch. You can go to the store at tuxdigital.com/store and get all of the cool merch we have, like t-shirts and mugs and hats and hoodies and so much more at tuxdigital.com/store.
And if you want to play penance, you want to pay a penance for using Vim or Vi instead of micro, or you want to pay a penance for eating Puffy Cheetos, you can support the show by becoming a patron, and that will help.
Yes, you also can. You can wash your soul away from all those issues. By becoming a patron.
Yeah, so many benefits.
And make sure to check out all the cool shows here on Text Digital. That's right. We have an entire network of shows to fill your whole week with geeky goodness. Head to textdigital.com to keep those Linux penguins marching.
Everybody, have a great week. And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination. Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.
Love you all.
Most of you. Jill does love everyone, I bet, though.
I think that's true. I think that's true.
Is there anyone you don't like, Jill? Have you ever ran across someone you don't like? Michael? Yeah, I know. Michael's pretty.
But rarely.
Yeah.
I feel like
just every week on Wednesday when you see Michael, it's kind of like
no. Every time that Ryan sends a message that says, "Hey, here's a new show," and you're like, "Oh God, another show."
Oh my gosh. You know what's happening right now, though? Think about this. All across the world in over 197 countries that listen to this show, there are Vim users trying to exit out to send their nasty letter to me right now. All around the world right now, simultaneously. They're all trying to hit different keys combinations to get out so that they can email the text file to me. It's incredible, you know? Think about the impact we have.
Yeah, that's definitely. See you next week, everybody.
Yeah.
Maybe if you get out of the shell, yeah.